We're curious to know about people who have faced difficult circumstances and stood against the storm. People whose lives would have more depth than what the media would have told us till yet. Capital Talk brings to you these stories, untold stories that fascinate, stories that inspire, and stories that show us the real them. In conversation today with Leher Sethi, we have a national leader with over 48 years of contribution to nation building and having the distinction of being the Chief of Army Staff and later the Governor of Arunachal Pradesh. He is a distinguished international personality and a public speaker with vast experience. Friends, please welcome General J.J. Singh. Here at the iconic Oxford Bookstore, established in 1990, Oxford Bookstore is the best equipped base camp of journeys of the mind, offering its customers the widest range of outstanding titles and consistently courteous and informed service for close to a century now. Today, with more than 30 stores in India, India's first dedicated children's bookstore, Oxford Junior, India's first of its kind tea boutique Chawar, India's only literary festival created by a bookstore, APJ Kolkata Literary Festival, Oxford Bookstore offers book lovers access to the very best in publishing, enhanced by a variety of events which salute books, visual and performing arts, and celebrate the word. Friends, I'd now like to invite Leher, who's a social activist who's associated with many non-profit organizations and is an advisor to the Delhi Literature Festival, to take the evening forward with us. Leher.
Thank you, Neeta. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here today. I'm going to talk about General J.J. Singh, little in detail. A national leader with over 48 years of contribution to nation building. Can you hear me at the back? All right. A national leader with over 48 years contribution to nation building and having the distinction of being the Chief of Army Staff and later the Governor of Arunachal Pradesh. He is a distinguished international personality and a public speaker with vast experience. He has a strategic perspective on foreign policy and defense relations with neighboring countries. His perspective and knowledge is a valued national asset which can be used to steer long-term national defense and security policy. The general became the 22nd Chief of Army Staff and commanded the second largest army in the world from the 31st of January 2005 up to the 30th of September 2007. During 2007, he held the appointment of Chairman, Chief of Staff for the three forces. During his tenure, General J.J. Singh refined operational planning by co-opting the battle-winning role of revolutionizing the military affairs and provided focused direction based on the doctrine of the Indian Army. Having earlier been its architect, he has handled an army of 1.2 million soldiers and managed defense assets of many billions of rupees as the army's chief. He has also had the privilege of being the first Indian defense attaché to Algeria. The general served as governor of the state of Arunachal Pradesh from 2008 to 2013. He was proactively instrumental in implementation of the Prime Minister's development package of rupees 20,000 crores for development of the state in major infrastructural projects related to road, rail, air, connectivity and power. He has endeavored to earn the sobriquet of being a soldier's general and a people's governor. His autobiography, A Soldier's General, was published in 2012 by none other than HarperCollins India. The book has been translated into Hindi, Marathi, Punjabi and Bengali besides being a bestseller in English. It discusses India's national security challenges such as Siachen, Kargil, counter-terrorism operations in J&K and the Northeast, and especially our relations with our neighbors, Pakistan and China. The general officer is widely traveled and has been to over 50 countries and enhanced mil-to-mil cooperation in a significant manner. He was also recently conferred with the highest French civilian distinction, the Officer of the Legion of Honor, the highest civilian award given by the French Republic for outstanding service to France, regardless of the nationality of the recipient. General J.J. Singh was chosen for the honor in recognition of his stellar role in modernizing the Indian Army and initiating robust exchanges between the Indian and French armies, leading to unprecedented levels of cooperation and interoperability and creation of enduring ties and promotion of mutual understanding between the two countries. I'm almost at the end of his introduction. Sorry if I go on, if I've been going on for quite some time, but I want you to know the man before we start talking to him. So please bear with me. A thinking general who has distinguished himself as a hands-on professional who leads from the front, he believes in fighting to win. A warrior and a winner, he is an achiever against odds. The general officer has shown great enterprise in turning around weak organizations and creating capabilities of our armed forces. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege and my honor to kick off Capital Walk, a talk with General J.J. Singh today. Please, a huge round of applause. Thank you. We'll just play a small video talking about him and his life.
Would you like to sit here? No, I'm fine. I think the video is okay. The sound is not coming. Okay, this is.
infantry army. An interesting facet of this chapter is an innovative comparison of two army chiefs, General Jagmeet Singh and Parvez Musharraf, a peculiarly soft peers who went to the military academies in 1961 and were commissioned in 1964, the same years. They rose to be chiefs of their armies, albeit in the case of General Musharraf, he wore two hats as he had appointed himself as the president too. Their career graphs presented interesting insight into the stark differences in the culture, values, and systems of our two neighboring countries and the role played by the two armies. A thinking general who was the architect of the Indian Army's doctrine and also acknowledged as the originator of the highly acclaimed concept of the iron fist and the battle plug during counterinsurgency operations. After he hung up his spurs on the 30th of September 2007, he was appointed the governor of Arunachal Pradesh and took up his honorable constitutional position on the 27th of January 2008. He has been in this assignment for a period of over 4 years, and with his sincere and dedicated approach as the governor towards improving the social and economic conditions of the people and development of infrastructure in the state, he is striving to earn the sobriquet of a people's governor. The general has candidly reflected upon various significant and critical issues of national and international importance. His lifetime experiences as a soldier and his success as a leader of men. A warrior and a winner, his credo was fight to win. This book will strike a chord for the young army officer who aspires to be a general one day, and for the senior officers and others, including our dynamic youth, who need to get insights on matters of defense, national and international importance.
Thank you.
So, Jensen. So this event is live streaming right now on the Oxford Bookstore YouTube page in case you'd like to share it with anyone. So General Singh, 47 years in the Indian Army, 5.5 years as governor, and now an author. What has been the most challenging role of her?
I think undoubtedly it's the appointment of the Chief of Army Staff which was most challenging. Uh, responsibility as a governor is also very significant. It's a milestone in anybody's life. But as an army chief, you had a 4,000 plus kilometers of boundary with China and about 750 kilometers of the line of control with Pakistan, which was unresolved, and there was some activity happening always. So therefore, every day I would be praying to God to look after my soldiers who are deployed in such difficult conditions. And practically 30% of the Indian Army is deployed in the borders area all over the country.
Also, you come from the third generation of a family that has been in the army. So you're the third generation of the family. So was there ever any other choice for you, or was there a lot of pressure to join the army and then go on from there?
Actually, like some of the seniors who are here, when we were growing up, there were hardly any options for us other than the standard ones in those days, that either you join the armed forces or you are a teacher or you're a doctor or an engineer or the civil services. So besides these five vocations, there were none other. And if, pardon my saying it, if there's any lawyer, I beg his pardon, those who couldn't do any studies very well, they went and became lawyers. So in those days. So anyway, the fact is that today there's a rainbow of options. So for me, growing up, having heard stories of the First World War from my grandfather, that was our entertainment before dinner. And then my father served in the Second World War, and I was fortunate to join the armed forces, and I served a century of association and service to the military and the nation. My grandfather joined the army in 1914. It is exactly over 100 years. That's our story.
So I come from an army background as well, and I know how difficult it is for the family. because you're there on the field, on field. The family is left behind. Was there ever a conflict between your family and your lifestyle?
Yes, I can frankly say there was very often a conflict that while I am doing my duty on the frontiers, my wife has to bring up the children by herself, and very often they wanted me there. And so there was a bit of pressure from the side of the children and the wife missing me, and therefore I tried to convince them, but I was not always successful. So we had a little bit of problems because of that, but that's part of life. They eventually, as I said in my book, I hope when they read this book, which is dedicated to the Indian Army, the Great Indian Army, and also to my family, they understand my compulsions more once they read it.
Great. And what prompted you to write an autobiography? What made you pick up the pen and write about your experiences?
I think many of us who are sitting here would definitely like to write what they've experienced in life. If not a full autobiography, but certainly some segments of it, some stories, some things like that. It's the creativity in every individual. In my case, an urge told me that you have been fortunate to be the Chief of Indian Army, and why don't you write your life story? Because you have been through many challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm in front of you. I don't show scars. I don't show wrinkles. I don't show frowning face. I'm smiling all the time. It's a gift of God, perhaps. But I've been through hell. And I remember the movie To Hell and Back when we were kids, seeing it in small towns in the army cantonments. And I was very touched by that movie, To Hell and Back. Actually, I have been to hell and back because I have died nearly 3-4 times.
My God, would you like to tell us about one of those instances?
Yes, of course, why not? In Arunachal Pradesh, I was commanding a battalion, so I've been associated with that state for a long time. There was an exercise, and in that exercise, the brigade commander said, you will act as the Chinese and advance from the border side, and there will be Blue Land who will be defending. And I was told that the Blue Land concept of defense is not good, tear it to bits. I was prepared for it. Suddenly it started raining because that was not the campaigning season, and the rivers there become raging torrents. I couldn't just cross one nala which we could wade, it was knee deep otherwise. And the brigade commander tells me, JJ, have you chickened out? I said, no sir, I'm not, we're trying. We cut trees and put them across the nala, but still they will get washed away like straws. So that was the night when I actually tried to rush forward and motivate my soldiers, you have to cross this river come what may. But of course, keeping in mind we don't want to lose lives, it was peacetime exercise. And I nearly fell down a precipice of almost 200-300 feet because I don't know what stopped me. I just stopped at the edge of a precipice. And when I saw that place in the morning, my intelligence officer came to me, yes sir, you're standing here, your footmarks are here. You would have died after one more step forward. How I was saved, I don't know. So these are some of the things, very providential. I was shot up in a convoy as a brigadier in the heart of Baramulla town, a chowk called Tashkent Chowk. As we crossed it, they had laid an elaborate ambush to destroy me, to kill me. And my name was Shaitan Singh. Brigadier Shaitan Singh ko khatam karna hai aaj. So they had put a very heavy deployment on both sides of the road, and they had scared the townspeople, don't talk about it, we'll kill this brigadier, because they came to know I'm coming on that road. As we crossed the Tashkent Chowk, from both sides of the road we were shot upon by hundreds of bullets went flying past us. It's just miraculous that we didn't get killed. Otherwise we would have, and we broke through that ambush. So that was another experience. Like that, there are more I got actually shot up also as a brigadier in Kashmir when a big encounter took place with 26 terrorists. And I'm not talking of the encounters which we normally read in the papers and say cynically, "Kuch kiya hoga." These were on the borders and within 5 kilometers of the line of control. Each man was armed, and you saw the picture of the AK-47 that we had caught. There were hundreds of such weapons we caught. Each man was armed to the head. So there I got a bullet, sniper shot at me, and he hit me in my pelvis. Again, I don't know how I'm alive. After that, when I recovered from the hospital, came back, people said, "You've been shot up. How does it feel?" I said, "I don't know, but my golf swing has improved."
So you were the face of the Indian Army when the Kargil war was going on. And you've also been quite vocal on your thoughts and sentiments on Siachen. So when you decided to write your autobiography, I'm sure a lot of people must have been worried. So were there any constraints on you while writing the book?
Actually, it was only my self-imposed constraints that those highly classified things which would be sensitive, I did not put them down. But other than that, nobody ever told me that, "General Saab, don't write about this or don't write about that." Kargil war was subterfuge by Pakistan, and as you know, every time anything happens, they first and foremost say, "We deny what has happened, because we have no role to play." Actually, they have a role to play in every action which happens, whether it's Pathankot or Bombay, or it was a parliament attack or Kargil. And they disown their own soldiers. I mean, which army in the world will disown their own soldiers who died on our soil in Kargil? We said, "Please take them back." We got their identity card, we got their letters, we got every proof, but they are your soldiers. They denied, and they didn't take these bodies. We buried these bodies in as per proper religious rites. The army did it. So we are dealing with a neighbor where deniability and telling lies. For example, can anyone in this audience believe that how Osama bin Laden could have been kept securely next to their military academy and nobody knew about it? It's funny. So therefore, I said to Stephen Cohen, he's a very famous writer and analyst of South Asia. I said, "Steve, you come to meet me, but what are you wanting me to tell you about Pakistan? From president down to the lowest soldier, everybody tells lies." Oh, that was his reaction. So I said, "You better take this down from me. And that nation cannot be trusted." Similarly, we cannot trust them for Siachen. We cannot expect them to not to renege on their agreement, because they are bound to say, "Oh, we were always there." They'll take positions where we vacate, and they will probably come there, and then tomorrow they will say, "We were always there." So we have to be very, very careful. We want relations with Pakistan to improve, but it should be, they have to rebuild the trust that they have broken with us. 47, they said it is the Razakars who came in, but led by their army officers, JCOs. In 65, they tried a infiltration operation which failed. And then 71, again, they blame us that we created Bangladesh. But they spoiled the case themselves. And they made Mujibur Rahman as the Prime Minister of Pakistan, East Pakistan, and that time, then the whole of Pakistan, perhaps there wouldn't have been Bangladesh created. So they denied them freedom. Now they say, "We want to have Kashmir," but for God's sake, handle Pakistan occupied Kashmir properly. Unko to liberties de do, unko to freedom de do, unko to azadi de do, in the literal sense. They are not so free. When they come across, I was in Uri, Baramulla, when they crossed, we opened the road Muzaffarabad. They said, "Humko azan karne ka mauka milega." Baqaida milega, you can pray and you can do anything. And then after that, they said we were fed all wrong propaganda, wrong stories about Indian Kashmir. But the truth is, that is much better than our side. So this is the hakikat. This is the reality.
It's very interesting. So, are there any other sensational secrets that you've spoken about in your book? Is there anything that we don't know about that is in there?
Well, there will be, once you read, I don't want to preempt you from reading it and learning it yourself, but there are aspects of my life where some very interesting and sensitive things happen, and they are in our national interest. They are recorded here because this is going to be for posterity.
Did you face any moral dilemma while you were writing?
I think every author has this dilemma when he's writing an autobiography, because it will be criticized by some people that he has tried to praise himself. I also have this dilemma, and I also felt I should not be guilty of that. But then, should I also mellow down my achievements? If I was 10th in the university in high school, should I say I got a high first division or something? That's a fact. So I decided that I will recount events as they happen and as far as possible factually true. So if it is taken the other way around, I'm sorry, but I did justice to it from my side. But there was a moral dilemma.
Okay. Could you recount an experience of a senior of yours, from the army, that you've learned from?
Yeah, very interesting question you asked. I remember there was a brigadier who was a Mahavir Chakra winner. I was very proud to serve as a colonel, a commanding officer under him. And you know what happened? I'm talking about the same exercise where I nearly died in Arunachal Pradesh. When we were discussing this in a sand model discussion, he got up and he said very, very, very abruptly that, gentlemen, why are we wasting our time here? And everybody was shocked. It never happened in a military sand model discussion. There was a GOC who was conducting the discussion. It was his subordinate. But there was the corps commander and the army commander, all there. We were aghast. As soon as they could do it, they realized there is going to be a heated discussion between the brigadier and his general. They said, have a tea break. So we went outside. There was no tea ready because it was not the time for tea. So we went outside. Then after 15-20 minutes, they had a huddle and they called us back. They said, this sand model discussion will be terminated here and here itself. And we'll have an exercise on the ground to prove whether the brigadier is right or the general is right. So I became a fan of that brigadier, and I learned from him better to be forthright. If you don't agree with it, don't say yes to be a yes man to get good brownie points and to score a good report. Same brigadier, in the exercise, he says, JJ, you chickened out? I said, sir, I learned from you. I don't want my men to die because the weather is bad. If the Chinese have to do this kind of an operation, they will do it in October, November when there are no rains. You holding it in May and in June, the high monsoon period. So it's just sad. How many people do you want me to lose lives of my soldiers if you want me to cross it now? He said, no, I take your word, JJ. So I saved my career by being frank, but I had a very good superior from whom I learned that you should be frank.
And that's very true. Well, on a lighter note, I would like to know why you chose Delhi as home. As an army officer, you get posted all over, and your family moves with you, and you get to see all these places, and then we're lucky enough to choose where we want to settle down at the end of our career. So, what made you choose Delhi? Since this is
Firstly, since we have got so many Delhiites here, I would like to say Delhi is a happening city, is the capital. Besides that, what is most important is some people make a mistake of making a fancy home in the hills or in the beaches in south of India or in Goa. I wanted to be where my children's interest is, and me and my wife decided to be in Delhi because our daughter with her 3 children lives in the same colony, and our grandchildren saunter in. What they are banned from having in their home, they come to Nani and say, I want this thing, I want chips, I want this thing. And a small toddler who's 5 years old, I said, how many chips have you had? He has the whole packet. He said, only 3. So I said, show me a kid who's only had 3 chips. But we are lucky they could come in and out in that colony. We live together. That pleasure you will not get. You may have a fancy home in the hills or even in any exotic place, but the children will come once, second time, third time they say we get bored. They won't come. So you'll be alone. So it's better to be part of the children's lives and the grandchildren's life when they are growing up. I have my granddaughter here and grandson. They both are there. And please, could you just stand up, Seerat and Sumir? Yeah, there she's in. They are wonderful children, but sometimes very naughty also.
That's lovely. So it's the children that brought you to the camp. Very interesting. So who's the general at home? Is it you or is it the business?
Very sensitive question, but I want to tell you that answer is also obvious to most of the people. They will agree with me that the lady is the general at home. But one more thing. Oh, that's not true. Yeah, I said my wife is going to protest. So she's been a very good wife. But yes, we have the field marshal also, who's our daughter. So that is somebody we are all very scared of because she is very demanding and very proper, very effective. She's a fashion designer, and her daughter is right here. I hope I'm right, Seerat, in what I say? Yes. Okay. So we have a field marshal and we have a general at home.
Lovely. So you have an entire army at home.
A happy family. Yes. All creative. My wife is a artist, and my daughter is a fashion designer. My sister-in-law is a writer and a poet. So they are also. Yeah.
Lovely. How interesting. Coming back to your life before you moved to the capital. So you've been part of the Kargil War, which is something that fascinates, I would say, 90% of the Indians. I want to know more about your experiences while you were, the face of the Indian Army during that.
I was fortunate to be in a key position in the Indian Army in the Military Operations Directorate as the hands-on general handling the war. So I'm not only the face because I came on few TV interviews, but I was also the mind because we worked as a team, but I was a senior general at that time and looking at Kargil itself. You won't believe that Pakistan surprised us by doing something which was not expected at the scale at which they did it. But that is only the first innings. And in life, in cricket, in football, in any other thing, the second innings can be more important or even decisive. So when we started beating them and thrashing them and killing them and cornering them in that area where they were isolated, we had our artillery and air force. They could not support their people with their artillery, and they could not support them with the air force because they were not prepared for this kind of a reaction. Not only that, their wounded were not being able to be evacuated to get medical attention. So what I'm trying to say is that they cursed their officers. Why did you send us on this mission, which was a one-way ticket? They could not go back. And the point came, it was a political, it was a military, and it was diplomatic victory for India. And we find that the whole world understands how the Indian Army had the guts, Indian Air Force also, to be able to throw them back from these daunting heights of 14, 15, 16, 17,000 feet above sea level. So we really proved our worth and we earned accolades by everybody.
So you said that the Pakistani army refused to identify those soldiers as their own. So what did you do with the wounded and the ones who survived?
You'll be surprised. We had 8 soldiers of theirs who became prisoners of war. And we looked after them, we treated them, and at the time when they discussed and there was ceasefire, we returned them honorably, not like what some of our people who were killed on the other side. They were mutilated, their bodies were mutilated before they came back. Let's not forget, one of them was our fighter pilot who ejected into Pakistan. So we are different. We had 93,000 Pakistani prisoners of war in 71 war. We treated them like the Geneva Convention says, and we honestly, you know what their soldiers told me? I was an intelligence officer, so I went to interrogate some of them. साहब आप इसलिए जीते हो, एक तो आपके साथ आवाम थी, the public was with you, the people were with you, because they were Bangladeshis were being tortured and terrorized. दूसरा, आप जैसे ऑफिसर हमारे आर्मी में होते तो हम हारते नहीं. So that's another credit they gave us, and that's the kind of recognition.
So, coming to a more recent topic, what is your take on the one rank, one bench?
I basically, like most of us, will agree that our soldiers are the most disadvantaged people when they retire, because they have to keep the army young. We can't have old soldiers climbing in mountains, fighting in the jungles and things like that, in the deserts. So we retire them at the age of 38, 37, 40. Now what does he do for another 20 years? He cannot survive on his pension. So the pension has to be reasonable and in keeping with the challenges and sacrifices he made for the nation. So I'm only asking for a fair deal, and the government has given us, I would say, almost as good as we thought they would give us. There are some anomalies which have been raised, and there is a commission which is doing looking into it, and they'll probably do justice to our requests.
Okay. Now, besides Kargil, Siachen has featured predominantly in the last 10 years of your career. So, could you tell us more about your experience of, again, having been associated with the whole Siachen conflict?
Well, everyone who knows about the northern part of our boundary, Siachen Glacier is disputed because the Pakistanis say that it is ours, and we are in actual occupation of that, because when in 71 war, and before that, after the ceasefire in 1950-51, they drew the line of control. It went up to one point called LJ9842. Beyond that, it said, thence north to the glaciers. If this is the direction of north, you cannot stretch it to this direction, because then you are going northeast. And that is what Pakistan wants, to have Siachen in their control. But that's not going to happen, because we have gone more by the letter and spirit of the agreement than them, and we are justified. Yes, it's tough to be there, but if it's India, you have to be there. If it's India anywhere in the world, we have to. Tomorrow we may have a place in Antarctica. It will be tough, but would India be there if that's our part, if it's India? So we have to accept that, and there's no compromise on that. And also we can withdraw, provided the Pakistanis sign the dotted line on the map and the ground, because we cannot trust them. And this is what I told the Prime Minister of India when I took him there. I said, sir, you're talking about mountain of peace and various things. But do you realize that if we locate those areas, if they come and sit there, we can't recapture them. That's the geography. So therefore, unless they sign and authenticate the signatures on the map and the ground, we should not talk about any withdrawal.
Well, that's a very sensitive issue to be faced here. I had once written an article about Siachen talking about how India should, resume talks with Pakistan, at least on this particular issue, because we're both losing more soldiers to avalanches and natural causes than to the war itself. And there were so many people who abused me. 9,000 people shared it on Facebook, and
most of the people who gave their comments said that you're a traitor, you're unpatriotic because you're suggesting that we should give in. And I was just suggesting that we probably talk to them again, So I can understand, how it is. Sir, there have been many parallels drawn between you and General Parvez Musharraf. In fact, I was once listening to you at a book launch that you were a part of, the panel discussion that was held to launch. And you yourself were talking about how you were from the same regiment and you were born in the same area. So I would like you to talk about that because that's something that I think our audience would like to know about.
Firstly, our lives were very different towards the end of our careers. But the first 15, 20 years, our trajectories were more or less common. We both got commissioned in 1961. His family migrated from Delhi to Pakistan and we came from Rawalpindi to Delhi or this way to India. And then we commissioned in 64. He did staff college, so did I. He married a pretty woman. My wife is also equally pretty, if not more. So things happened like that. He had 2 children, we have 2 children. He commanded 1 corps of Pakistan Army, which is also an offensive formation. My destiny was I commanded 1 corps of Indian Army. So like that. But after that it diverged because his trajectory took him on a different line. I was sitting by the side of the Pakistani ambassador in one function and I told him for 30 years from 1964 to 1994, being a Delhiite, my parents are in the defense colony, I never got one posting in Delhi. He said, still you became the chief? I said, yes. He said, Pakistan mein to nahi ho sakta hai. You have to have some kind of a networking to be able to go up to the top. Anyway, this is how I was different from him. Not only that, he appointed himself as president of the country also. He did a military coup against the... So therefore, I'm not in any comparison with him on those matters. I'm a officer who's risen from the second lieutenant's rank, done all the things which have to be done conventionally, properly, and that is how I personally feel that I'm more satisfied today than him, because he was warned, you remove yourself from the president's chair, otherwise we'll be impeaching you. And then there are cases against him which have not yet been completely cleared. So I don't know his future, but I wrote in my book something very interesting. If somebody wants to read it, will realize what I said 5 years ago is coming out true. I said, don't you come back to India. I was in London then. Don't you come back to Pakistan because you think that you will be given a great grand reception. You might not, you'll repent it. But he did another miscalculation like Kargil by coming back to Pakistan, and then all sorts of things have happened since then.
Right. So you coming from, you're the 3rd generation of a family that was in the army. Do you not want your son to join the army as well?
Well, definitely I wanted him, and he also wanted very much. I told him one thing. We were in a camping ground in Spain, and I said, son, because of me being an infantryman, you had so many transfers, and therefore your studies were disturbed. And you are 1 year behind your colleagues. Therefore, that 1 year will be very expensive to you when you rise in ranks. I would recommend that don't think of joining the NDA because your peers have already joined there. So then, next best, I said, this century, 21st century is going to be a century of economic warfare. To be an economic warrior for the country, and that's what he is doing today. He is doing very well in the field he has chosen. But we adopted or we fostered 2 children. I showed that picture over here. The elder one is a captain and he's in my battalion 9 Marathas. So the foster son has probably taken the place which my son would have done. So we still have indirectly a 4th generation.
What would you like to be remembered for? If there was one thing that you would want people here to remember you by?
I think for me, being a good human being and a person who led from the front is what I'm actually thinking that I should be remembered for this. That I gave a personal example in led from the front, but I also always endeavored to be a good human being. The humane face of the Indian Army was what I propagated, that for the terrorists there should be no mercy. He is carrying a AK-47, he deserves no mercy. He should be hit with an iron fist, and for the people who are innocent, 99% of them, we should have a velvet glove approach. They are our citizens, we must treat them with dignity and respect. That was what I believe. I want to be remembered as a good human being and also an officer who led from the front.
I'm going to remember you like that, and I'm sure most of us here will. I'm now going to open this to the audience here. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask the General, yes, our ambassador here wants to ask a question. We have, by chance, we have the Algerian ambassador amongst us, and General J.J. Singh was the first defense attaché of India to Algeria.
Thank you, Leah, for inviting me. Thank you, General J.J. Ladies and gentlemen, I have one small comment and one question. The comment is that the Berlin Wall is a physical wall which has been built in one day and dismantled in one day by hammers, physical hammers. Unfortunately, the war between India and Pakistan is a psychological one. What are the psychological hammers which will help all of us, all countries, are looking for a psychological hammers to destroy this war? This is my comment. My question is about terrorism. We suffered a lot from terrorism from 90 to 99. And we come to a conclusion that there should be no compassion for people who have been taught to kill by passion. Now terrorism is, as all aspects in the life, changing. We as Algerians, during our liberation war, we were called terrorists. Palestinians right now are called terrorists. So we should really open our eyes and to identify people fighting for their rights and people just killing for killing. I would like to have, the question is that, how, General, how could we adapt ourselves as a state to face this new face of terrorism? And thank you.
Thank you, Excellency.
Thank you.
J'ai le grand plaisir de parler avec vous en français, mais quand même pour tout le monde, je vais parler en anglais, si vous acceptez ça.
No problem.
Okay, thank you, Excellency. What I'm just going to say is two things. French were in Algeria, they were not natives of Algeria. We are in Kashmir, it's India, it's Indians. We are in northeast of India, we are in India, they are Indians. So we are dealing with our own people. We also had an insurgency and terrorism in Punjab. So we dealt with these parts of India very successfully. We never used air force, we never used heavy artillery, we never used tanks against any of these insurgencies or terrorism within India. Because we know we are in India, they are Indian people. So that is a big difference as compared to what the French were doing in Algeria. They would call you terrorists, but you were not terrorists, you were freedom fighters. But here in India, when there is every opportunity to have a democratic expression of your discontent, of your unhappiness, if you carry a gun and you want to make the rule of the gun as the law, then you are a terrorist and we can't forgive you for that. So we have the iron fist to handle such people, and we have a velvet glove to handle the 99% innocent people. Second point you said about Pakistan, psychological war and military war. You're right, military wars are out now in this epoch with the nuclearization of the subcontinent and nuclear weapons and weapons of smaller size and so on and so forth. War is not the option, but psychologically what can we do with a neighbor? We have to live with a neighbor. They have very serious problems. They created the Frankenstein who has come back to terrorize them. Now they are saying we are victims of terrorism. Who sent the terrorists to Pakistan? They only created them, now they are doing it, giving them back the coin which they gave. They trade them, they put them, now they have to face the consequences. Secondly, Pakistan has other problems also because they don't have a real democracy. They have a democracy, but the military controls everything from behind the curtain and the ISI does all the dirty tricks. So what I'm saying is they have to improve and correct all these things. On more important than that, they have the problem of Sunni Shia Muslims. They have a schism between Punjabi people and the rest, the Sindhis and Baluchis and others. So they have to get their act together. I have focused in this book what Pakistan's future is likely to be. I'm not exaggerating, I've mentioned they press the button for self-destruction. Now that self-destruction will take place if the people of Pakistan cut that cord when the fuse has been lit, they can save their nation. Otherwise, it's a matter of time because they have too many contradictions, too many problems. They blame us if Baluchistan happens. We don't know. But they're not handling Baluchistan properly. People say gas is taken from Baluchistan, not given to us, it's given to the rest of Pakistan. We have to live on like beggars, but gas is produced in Baluchistan. So now if you don't administer your people properly, then so the psychological problem is there. We have enough of liberty for people to express all their pent-up emotions in a democratic and a noisy democracy and everything, but we have parliamentary rule, democratic traditions, we have the institutions in place, which Pakistan does not. Any other question?
So in one sentence, what is the solution to the India-Pakistan conflict? And how much you're optimistic that in how many more years, coming years, that the prolonged conflict with India-Pakistan will come to an end?
Only a magician can give you a one-sentence answer. I'm afraid it's not possible, but I brought out the challenges for Pakistan internally and externally. They have to get their system and their act together. We, on our part, also need to improve what deficiencies we have, what weaknesses we have. But we have to, we cannot, you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your neighbors. You have to live with them. So we have to find ways and means. If we are talking with them, it's not a problem. But we should talk from a position of strength and on principles. And we should tell them that, look here, friends, every time you create something and you do something wrong, you say, you deny. And if you keep denying that terrorists are not sent by you, how can we be friends? So therefore, they are more responsible for it, according to me, and we are the ones who have been very tolerant. And we also sometimes must hit them back somewhere, sometime. Somebody there at the back.
Thank you. Sir, I was 3 years old when Kargil happened, and I remember, as my parents tell me, that I was very fearless and naughty and going here and there, just because of the fact that people like you were there on the borders fighting for us. So I think we owe our money to you. We're fighting there to people like you in the Indian Army. So, because most of us growing up, like I'm 19-year-old, and most of us growing up don't even know what is war or what is the period of war. Our knowledge of war comes from our parents who lived in 69 or 70 war. So I think that peaceful adolescence that we've got is all because of people like you. So we are fighting definitely. So my question to you is not related to Pakistan, but it's related to the concept of martyrdom. So I think this is my personal belief that we have failed our soldiers by glorifying the concept of martyrdom. The concept of martyrdom is used as a defense mechanism by political parties, but for hiding their faults and their policy paralysis. And I think one of the best examples of this would be the big aircraft case, where the politicians say, "Oh, we are so proud of our soldiers who have martyred. Oh, we are so proud of our soldiers who died." And where in the recent case where one of the daughter of the soldier met Rajnath Singh during funeral and she said, "Sir, कितने soldiers के families से soldiers की family को क्यों दुख होता है कि वही क्यों मरते हैं?" And he had no answer because in media he's just simply glorifying martyrdom. So, sir, do you believe that this entire glorification of martyrdom has to be restricted to certain sets to stop political parties and people in power from using martyrdom as a defense mechanism?
Thank you very much. I think it's a very apt point, but you're telling me that you were 3 years old when Kargil happened, so it makes me feel Kargil happened centuries ago. It is so big now. But anyway, the point is, as leaders, we believe that it's not our soldiers who should be martyred, it's that guy, that country soldier, if he wants to be martyred, let him, we'll help him become a martyr. When I was a brigade commander, I can tell you in Kashmir, we lost only 5 soldiers in 2 years, but we accounted for 175 terrorists. And I used to tell the people of Kashmir, क्यों अपने बच्चों को इस तरह से भेजते हो? Because जब वो वापस आते हैं, they have no chance to survive. They carry a gun, they will be killed. It's a death warrant, right? So we lost very few soldiers. My belief was I don't want to see more widows in our army. So we had that emphasis. Sometimes, somehow things don't work out. You have mishaps, but by and large, our army is doing a very good job and they are handling a challenging situation because it's not easy. You try and cordon any part of Delhi, any colony, because we have to handle terrorists who are hiding in the colonies there. We have to cordon them and we have to search house to house, and somewhere we find a hidden cavity behind which there is a terrorist hiding, and you find him there and he opens his AK-47 and shoots at you. So we have to make sure that we don't allow our soldiers to get killed. Sometimes the media says, "Oh, it's taking so many days, it's taking so many days, it's been 3 days, 4 days." But do you want us to rush and get killed? No. You want us to do it professionally, it takes time. So therefore, I think, and media also must realize that glorification, like what you have said, with a political motive should never be allowed. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. J.J. Singh, you have enlightened us with a true and factual happenings of your life. When Kargil war was over and Clinton left his presidency, 2 places after 2 months in the universities, he said it, "I asked Pakistan to withdraw the army." So Pakistan withdrew the army from Kargil. So where is the question of victory from Indian point of view? Would you like to comment on that? Just that is my. Secondly,
let me answer this first. It's a very important question you raised. Do you know Pervez Musharraf begged Nawaz Sharif आज रात को हवाई जहाज लेके जाइए अमेरिका में, क्लिंटन से माफी मांग के इंडियंस को एग्री करा दीजिए सीज फायर के लिए. We will allow them to withdraw. He went there and he didn't know whether he will be allowed to come back to Pakistan after that, because what Pervez Musharraf did, he then told हमारे सोल्जर तो लड़ रहे थे, नवाज शरीफ साहब ने जाके सरेंडर करा दिया, सीज फायर करा दिया एंड विड्रॉल करा दिया. They had a hopeless situation. Can you believe their soldiers who were there when the battle was joined? पूरी कहानी अलग हो गई. Their doctors could not come to them to treat them. How do you handle your wounded prisoners, your soldiers? They were cursing their officers. हमको मरवा दिया है, हमको कोई डॉक्टर नहीं है, दवाई नहीं है, evacuation नहीं हो रही है. So my point is, where is this question of their withdrawing? If they were able to stay there, they would have never withdrawn. I can tell you this. It's only a defeated army which wants an excuse like that to go back. And I can assure you, we were winning every day. And we were celebrating. Remember Tiger Hill? When we captured Tiger Hill, we captured Polo Ling. हम तो वहाँ रहे 24 घंटे. For 25 days or 30 days, I was wearing combat dress and I slept in my military ops room. For me, it was not जाके शाम को घर चले जाओ. I told my wife, I'll have my food here, I'm staying here. This is war for us. So we were not, let me tell you, it was a disaster. The biggest disaster for Pakistan. Even their generals and colonels and marshals are saying that Pervez Musharraf put us in this disastrous war.
Why Clinton made this statement?
Clinton also wanted to take credit. He's a politician. Sometimes political statement भी बनानी पड़ती है कि मैंने राजीनामा करा दिया.
My second question is, 2 months back, I put this question in Pakistan embassy. There was an intellectual week. I said we make this statement that there will be no end to India and Pakistan war, and it will continue situations like this for the reasons that so long their masters of leaders of both the countries, they want war, there will be a war because they are supplying defense material. A lot of money is there, and they give this money to them to fight the elections. So the beneficiaries of the war is those people who are supplying the arms. So there will not be peace unless outside forces desire. Would you like to comment on that?
I'm very convinced there will not be a major war between us and Pakistan because of the nuclearization of the subcontinent. At the same time, we have to be prepared to face the challenge should it happen. And Pakistan today, I'm telling you, is not in our league. We are much above them and we don't have to think about it at all. They try to compare themselves with us. We are not in the same league. They are not in the same league. We are far superior to them in every respect. And I talked about leadership. I met somebody recently. He says even today, the Pakistani leadership is of their armed forces is what the chap was describing in 1971.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Malhotra, and thank you. Okay, we just take one last question and then we're going to wrap this up with a quick rapid fire.
I think the tea time is being eaten into. You're welcome.
Very short. According to your experience and what we hope is that in Pakistan, it's basically the military which controls the government. What's the scenario in India? How big is the role of the government in army decisions, and what is it that you expect out of the government and the government expects out of you? If you could just highlight.
Yeah, I want to make it clear that in the case of India, we have all the democratic norms which are being followed and the institutions which are required to run a country of our size and dimension and population. At the same time, we also feel that the military must be co-opted into policy making at the highest level as it is done in other developed democracies. Somewhere, sometimes this does not happen, but let me tell you that our leadership is seized of these issues and they are talking about how to ensure that strategic decision making is done with, let's put this way, all the wisdom that our nation has, including the military hierarchy. So decisions are taken with our advice. For example, take Siachen. Why the government has not ordered us to fall back? They took our advice. I'm taking the credit that my time I took a firm stance, and people said this general is an outspoken general. Mr. Nurani criticized me for taking a stand. He scuttles every peace talks with Pakistan. I said you can't trust them. Therefore, we have to be very sure before we agree to anything. So government does listen to our advice, and I think we have to improve the system a bit, which is being addressed, and perhaps single point advice of the Chief of Defence Staff and other things are also happening. Integration of the Ministry of Defence with the armed forces and the integrating of the three services, all these are happening. Thank you.
Thank you, General Singh.
We're going to quickly wrap this up with a short rapid fire round, which will not consist of any heavy questions anymore. So from here on, it's only going to be light banter. The first question that I'm going to ask you, sir, is so what song is playing in your car right now? What song are you playing in your car right now?
I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
You listen to music, sir?
Yes.
Which is the song that you're listening to right now?
Oh, my granddaughter told me one of the famous pop singers now. Can you tell his names? Bruno? Bruno?
Bruno Mars.
Yeah. So I'm listening to Bruno Mars because she's there most of the time with us.
Who is your favorite actress?
Favorite actor? Nasir Ludhi.
Actress.
Actress? Kajol.
If someone made a movie about you, what would it be called?
Rapid fire.
No. It will be called A Warrior and a Winner. I don't know any other option. निश्चय कर अपनी जीत करूं, ये हमारे स्क्रिप्चर में लिखा है. Prepare like hell, train yourself, equip yourself, and go into the battlefield and get victory.
उस भाषा में बोलो, निश्चय करूं मैं.
निश्चय कर अपनी जीत करूं.
निश्चय करूं.
Who's the actor you would like to play you?
Who's the actor who should play me?
Yes.
Difficult question. My grandson, when he grows up, perhaps he's a handsome
No,
boy.
an actor.
Sorry? Sunny Deol is old now.
Who's the actor? You still haven't answered my question.
Another the present lot, I think Salman.
Salman Khan. If you had to change your name, what would you name yourself?
Shaitan Singh. I'll tell you how Shaitan Singh came into being. In 1991-92, height of the terrorism in Kashmir. When we were fighting at night, most of our operations used to be at night. I believed that you should surprise the adversary. Only then you can win. But I don't want to win by points. I always want the victory to be decisive, to win by knockout. This is what my men also believe, and they were trained by me to believe in this dictum. Not winning by points. Oh, we won on the last over, last ball. Oh, victory is not a victory. You should win by a decisive margin 2 overs before the scheduled time. That is a victory. Now, basically, we had white spots on our caps at night because we operated at night, and they would shine in the stars light or in the moonlight, and मैंने कहा ये शैतान की आंखें हैं. So that's why my brigade was called Shaitan Brigade, and I was called Shaitan Singh. I was a good guy. I never harmed innocents.
I'm sure. Which is your favorite book?
Yeah, I also thought about it very much before I came to you, because this question in a book store you would definitely ask me. So I hope they're storing it. I like this book, Cain and Abel, very much, and I like Jeffrey Archer's style of writing. And he also believes that if your cause is just and your cause is righteous, victory will be yours. Sometimes he deviates from that, but eventually the good guy wins. That's the way I believe.
Which is your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Ben-Hur was very old, not recent.
That's one of my favorite movies as well.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, if you could have dinner with one famous personality alive, who would it be?
Male or female? Again, a very difficult question.
One male and one female.
No, it would be interesting to talk with somebody who's well up on our national security and India's challenges. I suppose no one better than Prime Minister Modi. He is born on 17th September. I shared the birthday with him, but I'm senior to him many years. But at the same time, he's a hands-on man. He wants to do the things he wants to achieve. I've lived life like that. Nobody dies of hard work, I believe. I'll try and keep trying. My children say, Dad, when are you going to retire? I say, retirement is not in my dictionary. So this was the second innings as a governor. Now in the third inning, I'm a writer. I keep writing all the time. What you may not be knowing is there's a script of a movie being made in English, which is here. I can't disclose the subject or the person who's going to do it, but story is completed today. I showed it to my wife.
Excellent. So next you're going to be writing a movie. You've already written a movie.
It's a outline plot of a movie, contracted for everything. And the other thing is India, China and our boundary issue. I think I'm privileged to have served in areas along the McMahon line, in Ladakh, in Joshimath sector in the center, in Sikkim, everywhere practically more than most others. And I'm not exaggerating, more than most others of my seniority. I have roughed out in these mountains and I'm a mountaineer on top of it. So these mountains are the geostrategic space in which we are going to fight our challenges in the future. So that is my next thing. That should be, is also 90% ready. By end of the year, I will give it to my publishers. Half of all, we're going to do that also.
Now,
No, one question.
okay, let us just finish with this. Just another 3 questions and then we're done. What was your favorite subject in school?
Favorite subject?
In school?
In school?
Yes.
I was very good in drawing sketches and all that. So I'm a map man. And I know in our country, our big weaknesses, our politicians, our bureaucrats, our other people don't know how to read maps. They publish the wrong maps, they publish the wrong boundaries, and it's embarrassing for everybody. So I think better geography should be taught in our schools, and seriously, because they don't know how. If I can spot Aksai Chin is map mein dikhaya ke nahi, and I said it's a wrong map. Aksai Chin is part of India, it should be shown that way, not the way America has drawn or Pakistan has drawn, or China.
I was terrible at geography. So that's something I'll take from you. Your favorite ice cream?
Ice cream?
Yes.
Oh, double chocolate? You got chocolate chips in that? That's my favorite.
Lovely. Okay, your favorite cricket team and your favorite cricketer?
I think I love in the Indian team Gautam Gambhir, good guy because of various reasons and he's got leadership qualities. He has been, I mean, there are politics in games also, but Gautam Gambhir is a good guy because when I congratulated all members of our Indian cricket team when they won the cup, it was a few years ago, I was governor. I wrote to them on my governor's pad. Only cricketer who replied to me was Gautam Gambhir. I don't care for anybody else because if they can disrespect a congratulatory trio from a governor, they are no good. They've lost their bearing. I mean, how many governors would have, in any case, written to the cricketers? I took my time, wrote it out, but I got a reply from only Gautam Gambhir. And he's proving it. You wait and see. Politics both hota hai inme, isko dal do, usko nikal do, isko kar do. We all know how much money is in this game. But for me, he's a good guy, he's a good cricketer also.
The last question is, what would you ask for if a genie were to grant you any 3 wishes?
Oh, that's again a magician kind of an answer. I can only say that I would want my country to rise to its destined place. About 300 years ago, China and India had 40% generation of world GDP and trade. India was one of the biggest powers. We want that to happen because we have the resources, we have the intelligence, we have everything going for us and the systems. So I would only pray that that should happen. Secondly, poverty. We should eradicate poverty whichever way we can. But I believe a lot can be done by us if we could bring up 2 orphans and made one a captain, the other is a soldier, getting 25,000 rupees in the army. Everybody could, in our position, help 1 or 2 children, and poverty can also be collectively reduced. Besides that, we must give back to society, having got so much from it that people should be able to help the underprivileged. That is the next challenge. And the third thing is, we should leave our beautiful India for our grandchildren and great-grandchildren so that they can live and breathe and drink water. Today we are facing serious challenges of pollution and water shortages, and power shortages is another thing. So these are the 3 things I'm looking forward to. Future of our grandchildren, elimination of poverty, and the third thing is India's position as a superpower.
Thank you so much. On that note, we're going to end Capital Talk 1. Thank you so much, General J.J. Singh. This would not have been possible without you. It was such a pleasure talking to you and listening to your views. It was an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed it. I hope our audience enjoyed it as much. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for having graced us with your benign presence. Thank you, all of you, for having been here. Thank you, Oxford Bookstore, for hosting us. Thank you, Ms. Preeti Paul, for hosting the Capital Talk session, and thank you guys for having tied up with us for the 6-month series. And I hope to see you all at Capital Talk 2, which will be with another personality who's had a very, very interesting life and is settled down in India. Thank you all. Please, there's tea being served, so you can all, yes, and General J.J. Singh wants to say something.
That from my side, a gesture, I'm going to tell the publishers to reduce 50 rupees from my royalty for the books for anybody who buys it. From the cost.
Okay, so General J.J. Singh is saying that today he's spoken to his publisher and the book is available at 50 rupees less because it's being cut from his royalty. So anyone who wants to pick up the book is most welcome to do so, and we have General J.J. Singh here to sign it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're from Andhra Pradesh?
He's from Delhi.
He shared the diet. No, I know, but I'm sorry.
He's from Delhi.
No, I was
Your Excellency, this is
I think we met somewhere. Liga Bharat, if you there, because most of them are there only. I think I met you somewhere at that
very nice to meet you and honored by your presence.
in between I got a call from the Parliament system. Very noisy democracy. Yes, I joined it late. I'm necessary doctor. I heard.
I'm a very strong nationalist. I want a country that rise to its esteem. And I'm sure it will. The people are very hard.
But what are the factors which are impeding in building a
very nice.
That's my pride.
Very good question.
There are two issues in this country which are not recognized, perceived, properly or they have attended the gender issue and the gender inequality. Our issue is of gender separation. That is the major issue. These are only two issues which have required them. But most of the intellectuals in Harvard culture don't recognize this. Gender separation, you see, women inside the houses, male outside, inside. Sometimes I feel that it is artificially large society. It's not a natural living. We must live in pain. Very much. It's a very artificial.
Good evening, how are you?
So nice meeting you.
Yes. I'm on the boat.
तो मैंने अपने लोगों को लिखा है वो सवाल है आपके 40-50 साल तक लोगों को खिलाया आपने किसी को नहीं बनाया कम से कम ऑर्गेनाइजेशन
Yes. I like it here.
आपने देखा ईरान का अफगान से मिस्टर आता है इससे साइन करता है हम उसका एक्सेप्शन करते हैं अकेला आदमी नहीं हम लोग आपके समान ऑलरेडी क्या आप लोग पास इधर में